Hey everyone, welcome to the Daily Fantasy Fix podcast presented by FanDuel.com. I'm Stevie TPFL. I'm filling in this week for Dan Bach. He is on vacation. So I asked him, what do you do on vacation in Jamaica? And he told me he drinks. So we're here not drinking, getting you guys ready for this 9-game basketball slate tonight. But before we get into that, and before I tell you who my special guest is today, I want to tell you about my friends over at SeatGeek.com. Have you ever been frustrated buying tickets online? Most sites make it complicated, and they try to sneak in all these huge fees at checkout. That's why you need to try SeatGeek. They've made it easier than ever to buy and sell sports tickets and concert tickets. SeatGeek has taken all the hassle and all the work out for shopping for tickets. They pull all the tickets available on other sites into one place so you save time and never miss a deal. You can even set alerts for upcoming events at SeatGeek, and they will let you know the ticket prices fall or rise. Even better, every ticket on SeatGeek is ranked based on value, so you can immediately find underpriced tickets. And before you buy, you can use SeatGeek's detailed maps to see the view of your seat. Best of all, SeatGeek is always honest and upfront about the price. Unlike competitors, they show you the full price from start to finish and never try to trick you with huge fees at the checkout page. Our listeners of the podcast get a $20 rebate on their first SeatGeek purchase. All you have to do is download the free SeatGeek app, go to the settings tab, click add a promo code, enter promo code ROTO. SeatGeek will send you $20 after you made your first ticket purchase. Download the free SeatGeek app today and enter promo code ROTO to get that $20. So before we get into this 9-game slate, I got a special guest. I got a few special guests this week lined up with me to talk about some basketball. I'm more of a tournament-minded player, so I like to get another perspective when I'm talking basketball. And this week, I have guys lined up, but today I have one of the best guys in the industry, Derek Farnsworth, Notorious. How are you doing, my friend?
Stevie, what's up, my man?
Oh, another day, dude. Another day. How's the dad life treating you?
Yeah, it's I'm getting used to it. My sleep will never be the same, I'm sure. But
Yeah,
it's fine.
I tried to tell you that before he was here, man. I told you to get as much sleep as you could before he gets here.
Yeah, everyone says that, but you never really can fully feel the pain until you're in it.
Yeah, man. I know that feeling. Like, people were telling me that stuff, and I was like, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And then, like, the first year is just, you are always exhausted. And let me tell you, my daughter's 4 now, and it doesn't change, buddy.
Yeah, and then I also got roped into the, hey, let's go to Costco real quick yesterday. And we ended up buying a gazebo and took like 12 hours to build. So, yeah, I'm recovering right now.
Well, we'll let the gazebo be, your sweat place for tonight's slate. FanDuel has a ton of action tonight. They got the $400,000 Super Baller. They got the $200,000 shot if you don't want to spend a lot of money playing these tournaments. They got a slam that's $200,000 tonight. Notorious, it's just a random Monday night, my friend, and me and you have been doing this a long time. 5 years ago, we wouldn't have seen these type of tournaments on a Monday night. I think it's just pretty awesome what FanDuel and what the industry has become.
Yeah, it's really great. Yeah, Monday nights used to be kind of a down night for NBA DFS, but yeah, like you mentioned, ton of great tournaments tonight, ton of cash games, so it should be a good night.
All right, let's get into these games. We're going to give a quick game-by-game breakdown today. Notorious is going to be focusing more on the cash game plays, and if I have any sleepers or tournament plays, I'll bring those up. But he's here to bring the goodness. I'm just here to talk, so that's what we're going to do. But we're going to start it off with Denver at Cleveland. Denver is not officially out of the playoffs yet. They're about 6 games back from 8th place, so they need to win every game and just kind of hope that it happens. Probably not going to happen. Cleveland, number 1 seed right now by 1 game, so they want to win as well. Who do you like in this Denver-Cleveland game?
Yeah, so general rule of thumb of mine is to avoid players, against the Cavaliers, against the Jazz, against the Spurs. So as far as the Nuggets side, I'm not really looking at anybody in cash games. They're only projected to score 101 points, which is the 6th lowest team total on the board. So, yeah, for cash games, I'll be avoiding the Nuggets.
Yeah, the only guy that I like from the Nuggets on the tournament, especially over on FanDuel, is Gary Harris. He's 5,400. Coming off of a bad game against Charlotte in a game that he faced Batum and had tough defense on him. But he's been playing the 30-plus minutes in 10 straight games, so we know he's going to get the minutes. If his shot starts falling, he's looking at 25, 30 fantasy points. And at his price tag, like you said, you don't want to really target people in cash games against Cleveland, but I think Gary Harris is an interesting tournament player.
Yeah, I like that call.
And then, one guy we want to pay attention to is Kenneth Faried. He's questionable coming into the night. We're recording this podcast 10 o'clock in the morning, so you want to pay attention to the injury news on that. Cleveland side of things, like we said, Denver's not a great team, but with LeBron being 9,500, does he even raise an eyebrow to you?
Yeah, he's just kind of been coasting recently. He's only averaging 39 fantasy points over his last 5 and 43 over his last 10. So assuming the big three are all playing tonight, I know we've heard some rumors that Tyronn Lue could be resting some Cavaliers down the stretch of the regular season. But if all three are healthy and playing tonight, I'll probably, he's in play for me, but I'll probably look elsewhere.
Yeah, his price tag makes it tough. So I definitely agree there. Kevin Love is cheaper. Irie is cheaper, but with being the three of them, you really need one of them to be out to be able to look at the other two guys.
Yeah, and using our Court IQ tool, I ran a few scenarios here. So with if all three are playing, LeBron has a usage of 26, Kyrie 26, and Love 21. But then if you take one of them off the floor, the other two's usage just goes way up. So make sure to look at that, and especially just moving forward, if one of the big three are out in Cleveland, you definitely want to get the other two in your lineups.
Yeah, for sure. If you're looking at this scenario here, it's a 7 o'clock game, so if one of them's out, we should have the info before game time. Not saying that we won't, but you never know in the NBA. But nobody else really stands out for me at Cleveland. Their prices are all kind of there. If Tristan Thompson was getting the minutes, he'd be a guy you'd want to look at, but his minutes are all over the place. Just nothing else stands out for me here for Cleveland.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, one of the best games on the night, San Antonio at Charlotte. This game I think is awesome here as far as being a fan of the NBA. Both of these teams in playoff races. San Antonio, they're 3 games back on Golden State. They look like they're going to be locked into that 2 spot, but Charlotte's in that 6 seed right now and not guaranteed anything. So this is going to be a good game at Charlotte here. Is there anybody you like from the Spurs tonight?
Yeah, so Saturday night against the Warriors was a perfect example of why you just can't trust the veterans. I was all in on Tony Parker and Tim Duncan, and Parker was terrible, and Duncan played 8 minutes, I think. So, yeah, I learned my lesson there. So I'm going to go with the young guys. I like Kawhi Leonard, and I like LaMarcus Aldridge. Both are just playing great basketball right now. And their minutes, their usage, and their fantasy production all way up across the board over their last 10 games. So I think you can look at both of them tonight.
Yeah, Kawhi with Batum, that's going to be a great matchup. 2 really good basketball players on both sides of the floor. So the one guy that I like a lot for tournaments tonight is LaMarcus Aldridge. Like you said, we can't really trust these veterans. And LaMarcus Aldridge, if we know he's going to play 30, 35 minutes against Charlotte's big guys, he should have a big game tonight. And I like his price tag at 79. I like his opportunity to return that 40-plus, 45 fantasy points tonight in this matchup.
Yeah, especially against Marvin Williams. I mean, he's not a terrible defender, but he's a little undersized. I think it's definitely a matchup Aldridge can succeed in.
Yeah, I agree there. Now, looking at the Charlotte side of things, Tony Parker's a guy that we like to pick on. Kemba Walker, he's all over the place. Is he more of a tournament play than a cash game play tonight?
Yeah, definitely more of a tournament play. He is a guy that I like to target at home. He's got some crazy home road splits in his career, but the Spurs are the best defense in the NBA, and even though Tony Parker doesn't have great individual defense, they're still somehow ranked 4th against point guards. So great tournament play, but probably not a cash game option.
Yeah, I agree. Is there anybody that you want on the cash game side here for Charlotte?
No, I don't think so. There's enough games on the slate that you don't have to force any of these guys in.
Yeah, 9-game slate. San Antonio is just so good defensively as a team. We've seen that the other night against Golden State. When's the last time we've seen Golden State under 100 points? Well, it was against the Spurs the other night. So it's really tough to look at any of these Charlotte guys, even in a tournament format. Nicholas Batum, he's a guy that I like to target, but against Kawhi, It's going to be tough to see him hit value at 8,000.
Yeah, exactly. And same with Marvin Williams and the rest of these big guys. So, yeah, it's going to be tough.
Philadelphia at Indiana. We know that Philly has the worst record. They're still kind of playing because I think it's like 5 or 6 games, the difference between them and another team. So looks like they're going to definitely be locked into that worst record. But Indiana, on the other hand, they're in the 7th seed right now. They need to win. There's no questions about it. So Indiana is very interesting here. Let's start off with the Philly side. Do you like anybody for tournaments or cash games here?
Yeah, I think you can play a couple of guys. We know Okafor's out for the season, and then Covington and Holmes are both expected to miss tonight's game. So should be another big allotment for minutes for Nerlens Noel. He only played 24 last night, but he did foul out, so he's in foul trouble against the Celtics. I think you can peg him for around 35 minutes tonight, and if that's the case, you got to like his upside.
Yeah, I definitely like his upside there. And I don't mind Grant either on FanDuel at 5,200. Probably not going to see the type of minutes that Noel's seeing, but he's in a play because he's only 5,200. And if he gets that 30-plus minutes, he should be able to give you 25 fantasy points tonight.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that just racks up blocks and steals. So I definitely like him for tournaments and decent cash game play as well. What are your thoughts on Hollis Thompson?
Thompson's a guy that he's been getting the minutes, and when he gets the minutes, he can return that 5X for you. So I don't mind that. If we know Covington's not going to play, which he's not supposed to play, he's supposed to return Wednesday. So if Covington's out, I think Thompson's in play one more night. Covington comes back. I think he hurts Thompson the most. But I think Thompson you could play on a position at small forward. If you want to go up on one guy and kind of down on the next guy, I think Thompson's in play at 4,200.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's just one of those guys that scores but doesn't do a whole lot else. So if he has a bad shooting night, he can hurt you. But if he has a good shooting night, definitely can return value.
You know who else does that?
Kyle Korver.
Monte Ellis, but not lately. Monte Ellis has actually been nice. So let's switch it over here to Indiana. I filled in on the grind down Saturday, and I can't believe you do that every day. But in one of the things that I said Paul George against Kevin Durant playing both because they play each other very tough, and that's usually what happens with stars versus stars. Paul George, 9,200, coming off of a big game. I think it's tough to pay up for him tonight. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm interested, but wouldn't call him a must play. The Sixers don't rebound the ball well, they don't defend the paint well, and they lead the NBA in block shots allowed. So I think the upside is definitely there. But with the 15.5 point spread, we could see him rest in the fourth quarter. They're going to need him down the stretch of the season if they're going to make the playoffs. So I am a little worried about his minutes, but the upside's obviously there against this bad Sixers team.
Yeah, if you told me he was going to play 35 minutes, I think both of us would lock him in. But I think we're both concerned with the same things here. We're both concerned with him resting in the second half of this game. Not the whole second half, but a good amount. But Philadelphia has been awful against point guards lately. George Hill coming off a big game against Oklahoma City. What are your thoughts here with George Hill? Over 20 fantasy points in 7 of his last 8 games.
Yeah, he just had a monster game against the Thunder. It feels a little bit like chasing points tonight, just because, he's not a guy that usually has a lot of big games. He's got a really low usage rate for a point guard. It's right around 15 for the season, which is just really low. So I'm not too high on him tonight. I know the matchup is good. I think his ownership will be a little bit inflated. So I think it could be a decent night to fade him, especially in tournaments.
I agree with you. I was seeing how the cash game mind kind of thought towards the tournament mind here, and I think George Hill is a complete fade for me tonight. And I know that Philly's been awful against point guards. It's just 40 fantasy points at 5,500 the other night against Oklahoma City. A lot of people are going to be chasing that, and I don't think I'll be one of them. One more guy I want to talk about here for Indiana. What are your thoughts on Monte Ellis tonight?
Yeah, he's just one of those guys that I never seem to use. He's always in a good spot. He always shows up pretty high in most models as shooting guard, but I just never find him on my roster. So I usually go up to guys like Oladipo or DeRozan or Harden or something like that. But yeah, he's in a good spot, and the upside's there.
All right. Anybody else you're looking at here for the Pacers, the big guys? Any of these guys in play for you?
Yeah, just when they're all healthy, it's tough to predict minutes and production. But when one of them's out, you can play, Turner or Jordan Hill or Mahinmi. But when they're all healthy, it's kind of tough.
One guy that I like for tournaments tonight in a large field is Turner, because if Indiana gets up in this game, I could see them resting Mahinmi and Turner getting a few extra minutes, and in a matchup with Philadelphia at 4,900. I think he's in playing tournaments, like I said, large field only, multi-entry. That would be the only time I would play him. Milwaukee at Detroit, both of these teams fighting for playoff spots here. So this game is probably going to be one of the best games on the board tonight. What are your thoughts on the Bucks tonight?
All right. So Detroit has a little bit of an underrated defense. They are ranked seventh in fantasy points allowed per game. So it's not necessarily a great matchup, but it's not one that we have to avoid either. You got to like Giannis. He's just been on an incredible run, averaging 47.4 fantasy points over his last 10 games, which is more than LeBron during that stretch. So he had a quiet game against the Jazz yesterday. I think that could help lower his ownership. I know 10.2 is a little expensive, but I think he's my favorite small forward on the board.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we were talking about, playing a guy like Thompson at the low end and getting a guy like, the alphabet here at the top, and, kind of locking in that 5X from your small forward position. Something that I would definitely think that I would probably do in a cash game lineup tonight. Anybody else standing out for Milwaukee here? Greg Monroe has been so up and down, getting a matchup against Detroit here. What are your thoughts on Monroe tonight?
Yeah, his minutes are just a little too inconsistent for me, and I always worry about foul trouble for guys going against Drummond, just because he attacks the glass so hard. So I probably won't be looking at Monroe. Little interest in Jabari Parker and Chris Middleton, but probably not going to be going that way in cash games.
Yeah, Middleton is a guy that's so frustrating because, he'll have games, and it's not like he's not getting the minutes. He's playing 30 minutes a night, and he'll have games where he'll put up 40, and then the next night he'll put up 16. So Middleton's a guy that I think you could look at tournaments. I think I'll go elsewhere, but I like Parker for tournaments tonight. I think he's in an interesting spot. His minutes are kind of up and down as well, but if he gets the 35-plus minutes tonight at 6,300, I think he could definitely hit the value that you want in a tournament tonight.
Yep, I agree.
Looking at Detroit side of things, Drummond gets a matchup with Monroe. So we look at the other side of the thing here. Drummond, at 7,700, you really want 40-plus fantasy points out of your center at that price tag. What are your thoughts on Drummond here tonight?
Yeah, a little conflicted. He hasn't been playing great basketball recently. He's only averaging 33 fantasy points over his last 10 games, which is nearly 6 lower than his season average. But he has a great track record against the Bucks. He scored 59 and 49 fantasy points in their last 2 outings, grabbing a combined 40 rebounds. So definitely a good spot for him to rack up points on the glass, and he's just got to make some free throws.
Which is not something we can ever count on.
Yeah.
A couple other guys here. Reggie Jackson, his price tag, I think it really limits his upside with his price tag being 6,500. I think he's only hit that tournament upside twice out of the last 10 games. He's not a guy that I ever roster. What are your thoughts here on Jackson?
Yeah, Jackson, he just doesn't have that minute upside we're looking for either. He's usually locked into 30 to 32 minutes, and the Bucks are actually very tough on point guards. I thought it was mostly because, the length of Michael Carter-Williams, but even over the last 3 weeks, they're still ranked third against point guards with Jared Bayless playing the position. So I think it's a good spot to avoid Reggie as well.
Yeah, and I'm the KCP whisperer. I don't know if you know this or not, Notorious. I nail this guy more often than not, but not a night that I think I'll be playing KCP. I love his minutes, and I love the shot attempts and stuff like that. I just don't love the matchup tonight, but if you want a low tournament option, KCP is always in play for me because he does play 35-plus minutes a night, but not the best matchup. Tobias Harris, Marcus Morris, any thoughts here?
Yeah, both interesting. Both going to see minutes in the mid-30s, and we like to target wings against the Bucks. So I like both of them tonight, and I guess I'll be listening to the KCP whisper.
All right, my Orlando Magic at Boston. The Magic are not officially out of the playoffs, but they are out of the playoffs. Boston's in that 5 seed right now, 1 game back from the 3rd seed, so they're going to be playing tough tonight at home. Orlando, Peyton came back last night, played 17 minutes in that game last night. Really want to monitor the news with him. I expect him to play tonight. I'm sure you're thinking the same thing. I didn't see anything about them limiting him on back-to-backs. And Vooch, questionable, probably going to be on more of the doubtful side, but, at 10 o'clock in the morning, we don't have news on that yet. But what are your thoughts here on the Orlando Magic?
Yeah, the spread, when I first saw it, looks a little bit low at 8 points on the road against the Celtics team, that needs to win. So, but I always trust Vegas in these situations, so we'll have to see if the line moves at all. But I like Evan Fournier a little bit. His price is expensive at $6,000, but I think he offers nice upside in tournaments. We've seen that the Celtics are really tough against opposing backcourts, which does limit the appeal of Jennings and Oladipo for me. So if I'm looking, for tournaments, I'll look at Fournier. Probably not going to use any of these guys in cash games, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think any of them are cash game playable. The prices have caught up to the injury news with this team. Oladipo being 8,500, his price tag's up there. Not saying that he can't hit value because his usage is through the roof right now. His minutes are through the roof. But it's a tough matchup with Avery Bradley here. So I'm with you. If I'm going to target somebody in the tournament, it's going to be Fournier. Aaron Gordon has been very disappointing lately. I think Vooch being out actually hurts him the most. Oladipo and Fournier, the only two guys I'm going to look at here from the Magic. Switching on over to the Boston side of things, the pricing is caught up with these guys as well, but there's one guy that I want in tournaments tonight. It's Isaiah Thomas. What are your thoughts on him tonight?
Yeah, definitely like Isaiah. I'm glad that his price is back under $8,000 on FanDuel. And using that Court IQ tool, you guys should check it out on RotoGrinders. It's awesome, and it's free right now. So, with Crowder off the floor, his usage bumps all the way up to 31, which is by far the highest of anyone on the Celtics. So definitely keep that in mind tonight.
Yeah, Thomas at 7,700, I think he's one of the top tournament targets tonight. Is there anybody else you're wanting from Boston, cash games or tournaments?
I think Evan Turner's interesting. In his 6 starts this season, he's averaging 35 minutes, 15 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks and steals. So if he's in the starting lineup, if they go with the bigger lineup, then I think you could look at him at 5.5.
Yeah, I like that call very much so. He plays well against Magic. But Golden State at Minnesota. Golden State coming off of a loss against San Antonio where they were held under 100 points. You have to think that Golden State comes out hungry tonight. And I don't know if that's good or bad for fantasy, because if it's when they're going to be hungry, does this game have potential blowout?
Yeah, it definitely has potential blowout. 11.5 point spread. The good news is it is in Minnesota, which helps a little bit. But yeah, we've seen these Warriors reach value in 3 quarters before, so I'm not too worried about it tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. In thinking cash game, Curry has to be a top option at 10-2 tonight, no?
Yeah, definitely. Gotta love Curry. Yeah, it's hard not to, or to find a reason not to play him tonight. Going up against Rubio, never been a great defender, so I love Curry. I like Draymond Green. Sounds like Andrew Bogut is going to be out. He's listed as doubtful right now, so they may slide him over, start him at the 5, which would give him a small boost in minutes and potentially rebounding rate as well. Yeah,
Klay Thompson's not a guy that I ever play. I think I've maybe played him one time this year. What are your thoughts on him at 7,000?
Yeah, he's a guy that I never really play either. He's going to have some big games, but when you don't roster him every night, you just got to live with it because he's going to have those down games too. So he's in play for me, but I probably won't end up using him. What about Mo Buckets, Mo Spades?
I was just about to mention him as well. 3,900. I think he's in playing tournaments. His minutes are either 11 or 15 or 16, 17, 18. So he's not a cash play ever. But he plays with so much intensity. If he gets 15 minutes, he could easily get 20 fantasy points. So I think he's in playing tournaments tonight if you're wanting to punt the position at 3,900.
Yeah, and he was a pretty popular play the other night against the Spurs. So I think a lot of people were burned by him, which always helps ownership for tournaments.
always helps. You just love people getting burned by people. I don't like getting burned, but I love people getting burned. We know that, like you said, Bogut being doubtful tonight, probably a good chance he doesn't play. Let's talk Towns, man. 8,800, his price tag is up there, but a matchup with Draymond Green, he's going to have an advantage here, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely got a length advantage, height advantage. Green's pretty tough, though. I mean, he knows how to play guys that are bigger than him. So, I mean, I'd probably consider a neutral matchup, at least on the offensive end, but he should eat up the glass for sure.
Yeah, I think he is almost a lock for a double-double if you're playing on a site like DraftKings and you want the couple extra bonus points for a double-double. I think he's a lock for that tonight. Coming off a big game against Houston, I think he's definitely in play. Tournaments, I don't know if I would pay 8,800 for him in a cash game scenario when you have a guy like Cousins who's just a couple $1,000s more, who we'll talk about here in a minute. Rubio, another tournament play, 6,800 in a matchup against Curry. Rubio has 3 good games out of the last 4. Didn't play so well against Houston the other night, so that's probably going to have people off him. What are your thoughts on Rubio?
Definitely interesting. We always like to target point guards against the Warriors. I believe they've given up the 5th most fantasy points to the position. So definitely a sneaky tournament play. And the 6.8 price tag will probably scare a few people off him in cash games.
So I want to get your thoughts on this right here. We talked about Golden State going smaller. What are your thoughts on Georgie Deng? Do you think that Minnesota matches them?
And Jang gets less time.
Yeah, less minutes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think so. He played 36 minutes the other night against the Rockets, but other than that, his minutes have been trending downward. He topped out at 33 against the Suns, but otherwise playing minutes in the high to low 30s or high 20s to low 30s. So I think they could match up with them. If Harrison Barnes plays the 4 for the Warriors, I think we could see a little bit more Shabazz.
Shabazz, a tournament option for you tonight?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Oh, back to the gorgeous dong. I think that he's definitely a tournament option as well at 6,500, because if Minnesota plays him out there with Barnes at the 4, he should dominate Barnes at the 4 if they use him the right way. But it's just the minutes worry me tonight, so I think he's tournament only. One of the best games for fantasy on the board tonight is Sacramento at Chicago. We just talked about playing Towns at the high price tag, and let's talk DeMarcus Cousins, 11-1, and he's on a mission right now to just do everything he can to score fantasy points, I guess.
Yeah, he should just have a monster game. He has a pretty good track record against the Bulls with Pau Gasol in the lineup. Now he's going to go up against Felicio and Taj Gibson, so I think you just got to pay up for him in all formats.
No, and I agree with you. I think he is probably the top play on the board tonight. This game probably not going to be a blowout, so you're going to get 4 full Cousins of Cousins and 35-plus minutes tonight. I see 50 fantasy points easy for him tonight. So he's definitely a guy that you want to roster tonight. Willie Cauley-Stein missed a game on Sunday because of an illness. He's questionable coming into tonight. Doesn't really affect too much for me, to be honest. There's not really much that I want outside of Cousins. Maybe Rudy Gay. His fantasy has been terrible lately.
Yeah, Rudy Gay and Rondo are both just struggling recently. Both of their production just taking a big hit, and Rudy Gay's usage is way down too. It's barely at 16 over his last 10 games, which is pretty low for him.
Yeah, I think the thing that hurt Gay the most was Collison moving into the starting lineup at shooting guard, and Collison is probably the only guy outside of Cousins that I would look at here for the Kings tonight.
Yeah, I agree. And for every reason, they started James Anderson the other night, I believe. So I actually like that for Collison a little bit better, just because his usage is going to go up when he's with that second unit. So I definitely like that call. I think you can play him tonight.
Yeah, for sure. And then looking at the Chicago things, one injury note that we want to mention, Gasol not likely to come back. The coach said Thursday night before the game that he expects Gasol to miss a few more games. They are – man, it's like a really close race between like 4 teams for the last 2 seeds here. So Chicago definitely wants to win this game. But looking at Chicago side of things, Jimmy Butler against Sacramento, it's hard to overlook the matchup here.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite players in the NBA, so you don't really have to talk me into playing him very often. But the Bulls have been limited his minutes, 33 to 34 a game. But like you mentioned, they really need to win, and each one more is out tonight. So I think we could see, him top that 35-minute mark, which is plenty of time to reach value against the Kings.
Yeah, I had a note about Moore and forgot to mention. I'm glad you did. Moore out. I do like Butler a lot tonight. Derrick Rose, not a guy that I ever play. I just upside wise, he just doesn't have it for me. I think he hit 40 fantasy points twice this year, maybe 3 times. Looking at him in cash games, is he a guy you want to look at tonight?
Well, I did use him, I believe it was about a month ago when he was ruled out 2 minutes after lock. So that was the last time I used Rose.
All right. Well, we know Gasol's out. What are your thoughts on Gibson tonight?
Yeah, I love Taj. I think for the last 5 or 6 years, it's just been when one of the Bulls bigs are out, you fire up Taj Gibson and, you just count your money. He's seen a big boost in minutes. And he had that one bad game where he got hurt. But other than that, he's been really good without Powell in there.
All right. It would hurt my feelings if I didn't get to talk about Dougie Fresh. McDermott has seen a huge increase in minutes with all the injuries and stuff like that. With Moore being out, I think McDermott plays the 25-plus minutes tonight. I love his price tag at $4,000 tonight.
Yeah, McBucket. He's shown some upside, and he's shown some ups, too. He's been dunking over people.
Yeah, 20 actual points in 3 of his last 4 games. Minutes got hit a little bit, but we don't play people against the Jazz for a reason. Yeah. McDermott, I think, coming off of a game where the box score people will just click and, he looks like he trended down a little bit. I think that McDermott is an excellent tournament option tonight.
Yep, and then one more name I want to mention is Mirotic. He should be coming off the bench, which actually helps his production a little bit. And he's coming off a pretty nice game against the Jazz, which is tough. He scored 30 fantasy points in 33 minutes. So I think he's sneaky.
Yeah. Would you pay the extra $900 for him or go down to McDermott?
That's tough, actually. I'd actually probably go Mirotic, but fine either way.
Yeah, I like it either way as well. I'll take the $900 savings, which you probably won't need too much. But if you want to get in like a Curry Cousins lineup, I would definitely probably go McDermott and save the money there. Washington at Atlanta, 2 of the teams that we were just talking about trying to battle for those last couple spots here in the East. This is going to be a good basketball game, Notorious. Let's talk about Washington first. What are your thoughts here for the Wizards tonight?
Yeah, this should be a really fun game to watch. I'm a little concerned just because both of these defenses have been playing well recently. But Marcin Gortat's interesting for me. Hawks have the 3rd worst rebounding differential in the NBA. And, his minutes were way down there for a while. But he's played 33 and 34 in his last 2 games. So I think we can project him up in the 30s again. And like I mentioned, good matchup against the Hawks.
Yeah, Gortat would be a guy that I would, consider if I'm not going to pay up for Cousins to get the savings, about $5,000 savings between him and Cousins. Gortat, I think, is in a really good spot for 30-plus fantasy points tonight against Horford, who, if you're going to attack the Atlanta defense, it's usually on the inside.
Yeah, exactly. And Gortat's a guy that averages nearly a fantasy point a minute. So anytime we can project him for, north of 30 minutes, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, John Wall, 9,900. Maybe a good tournament pivot from Curry tonight. If you're not wanting to pay up for Curry or you're wanting to go against the grain, John Wall's been playing excellent basketball. He's been leading this team and, just looking at what he's been able to do recently, he's playing with a lot of energy and stuff like that. So I think that John Wall is an excellent tournament play tonight.
Yeah, his ownership's going to be way down. Like you mentioned, everyone's just going to pay the $300 more for Curry. And we've seen him play well in some tough matchups. So this is a game the Wizards absolutely have to win, which is usually good for Wall's fantasy production.
One other guy I want to talk about before we move on to the Atlanta side, Bradley Beal. His minutes, if we know he's going to get 30 minutes, the 54 price tag, 5,400 on FanDuel, it really stands out to me here because he's easily a guy that could put up 30 fantasy points.
Yeah, I actually had a note on him as well. Nice GPP play at 5,400. He scored at least 25 fantasy points in 3 straight, and he's played at least 30 minutes in 2 straight. So with the Wizards needing to win the rest of the way, I like it.
I just love the price tag. When we do this and we're getting ready for these shows or we're getting ready for these podcasts and stuff, we do extra research. And when a guy like Bradley Beal stands out at 5,400, you really want to talk about him. Markieff Morris is another guy, a tournament option, 4,900. He's coming off a game with 36 minutes. So if his minutes are up, which they started to trend in the right direction and then they kind of trended down, but I think he's interesting tournament option at 4,900.
Yeah, I don't mind him. I don't love him, but yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, he's, like I said, tournament option, large field. If he gets the 30 fantasy point or 30 fantasy minutes, he's easily a guy that could hit value at 4,900. Now, looking at Atlanta's side of things, Bazemore came back, and a lot of people were riding the Hardaway train, but Bazemore came back and only played 16 minutes the other night. What are your thoughts on Hardaway and Bazemore?
Yeah, it's just tough now that they're healthy. Hardaway only played 20 minutes. He did score 27 fantasy points, but if he's only going to play 20 minutes, it's going to be hard for him to reach value on a consistent basis. They still have Tabo, they still have Kyle Korver, all split in minutes at the wings. We do like targeting wings against the Wizards, but I think it's a spot just to avoid just until we see, a clear picture of what the minutes are going to be.
Yeah, so here's the thing with Hardaway too. If you're looking at just the game log, you see 20 minutes, 20 points, and got a couple steals, and you see the 27 fantasy points. But what you don't see is 5 for 7 from 3-point range. He's not going to do that every night. So I'm with you. These minutes are just going to be all over the place trying to get all these guys minutes. So is there anybody that you would actually look at for Atlanta here?
I don't mind Paul Millsap. He's always one of my favorite guys just because he fills up all areas of the stat sheet. Not a great matchup against Washington, but he did have 44 against them in their last meeting. So I'm fine with Millsap.
Yeah, and like I said, both these teams, they need to win games. Millsap is the one guy I think from Atlanta you can always count on because he's just so consistent. His $8,000 price tag limits his upside, but he still has 50-point upside. So it's not like it limits it enough where you don't want to play him in all formats tonight.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, there's always that mental hurdle when a guy is priced at 7,900 compared to 8,000. It just seems so much more, and so I think people will be off of him.
Yeah, I like that call for sure. Anybody else you want from Atlanta tonight? It's just the price tag on Teague and Horford. I don't like the prices there.
Yeah, tough to pay up for them tonight.
All right, Memphis at Phoenix. Memphis, they called the guys off from the outside of the building and let them not play the other night, and they let Z-Bo return because they were going to roster fans the other night with all the injuries, and ended up letting Z-Bo play. And did he play, my friend? Triple-double to return, 36 minutes, 54 fantasy points. What are your thoughts on Stevenson and Z-Bo tonight?
Yeah, so I didn't watch that game, but how did he get 10 assists? Did he just lose the ball and his teammates picked it up and shot it? And that just doesn't seem like Z-Bo.
Yeah, Z-Bo, was Draymond Green playing in a Z-Bo jersey?
Yeah, I don't understand what happened. Usually when he gets the ball, he's putting it up.
Yeah, I don't think we were going to expect 10 assists again tonight. Maybe 1 or 2, but I think he can definitely pull down a double-double tonight against Phoenix.
Yeah, great matchup. With Mike Conley out, his usage is going to go through the roof, and it does hurt Lance Stevenson a little bit, who I've been on the last couple of weeks. But I love Randolph at 6.9. I expect him to probably be the highest power forward owned on the board.
Yeah, he's captain chalk tonight, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that he's in play. Definitely in tournaments as well, because even at 6,900, he easily could get you 40 fantasy points in this matchup tonight. And then you're looking at 6-7x. And if you don't have him, you're probably going to be way behind in the tournament. But if he does, you're probably going to be way ahead. So I'm not against fading him, but I think he's definitely in play. Stevenson at 7K. His price tag is really limited his upside, but he's hit over 40 fantasy points twice in the last 6 games.
Yeah, I love the upside, but I think his usage is going to go down a little bit with Randolph back, and I think it's a good time to jump ship.
I think it's a great time to jump ship. What are your thoughts on Tony Allen? He's been playing the 30-plus minutes, and he might be a good pivot off a guy like Stevenson.
Yeah, most people hate using Allen for whatever reason. I know he's got one of the worst shots in the NBA, but he gets blocks and steals, and he can turn those into buckets. So I like Tony Allen at 4.7. I think Matt Barnes is a little expensive at 6.4. He should be coming back after getting suspended for getting into it with John Henson.
What an idiot.
Yeah. Did you hear what Henson said to him? Something about Derek Fisher, or his kids asked where Derek Fisher was or something like that. But anyway.
It's the NBA. It's just like football. These guys are going to say whatever they can say to get under your skin. Like, come on. Like, be a professional. You're getting paid millions of dollars. I agree. His price tag is high at $6,400. Another guy that I think his price tag is up there and kind of limits him is Green at $6,100. Zebo being back. Green still played 27 minutes the other night, but with his price tag at $6,100 and Zebo being back, I think that limits him.
Yeah, I think so too. And then one guy, what are your thoughts on Ray Mack? If he starts with Conley out, he's only 3,700. So if you're going to punt a position at 3,700, you're not wanting too much. And he got over 20 fantasy points the other night against the Clippers, and the matchup was probably a lot worse against the Clippers than it is against the Suns. If he starts and we get that news, I think he's in play as a punt play. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Barnes back, if they slide him over at the 4, or if they, bring Ray Mack off the bench and let Lance start at point guard. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of what worries me. Stevenson playing the 1, Allen playing the 2, and they just moved Barnes over. But if we get news that they like what they've seen or something like that, you really want to pay attention to the news today with that situation. Phoenix guys, price tag on Knight $6,800 on FanDuel tonight. Without Conley there, what are your thoughts on Brandon Knight tonight?
Yeah, I think he's a great tournament play, borderline cash game play as well. We've seen him scored at least 37 fantasy points in 2 of his last 4 games. They were very good matchups, but yeah, I like him tonight at 6.8.
Yeah, the matchup on paper probably is not going to be great tonight for Knight, but with Conley out, it changes a lot of things. So I think that Knight's an excellent play, especially if we get news that Lance Stephenson's starting at point guard.
Yeah, we would definitely want to give him a little bump if Lance starts at point guard.
All right, I don't like Alex Len tonight at 6,600. His minutes have been all over the place. What are your thoughts on a guy like Booker, tournament option only?
Yeah, I think better tournament play than cash game play. But I mean, his productions has been off the charts recently.
Yeah, and there's really nobody else that stands out to me for the Suns. If there's anybody else for you, feel free.
No. PJ Tucker, everyone's worst DFS enemy.
Oh, PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker has won me a couple tournaments, and I think he was actually on the team that sent me to the Fantasy Aces basketball championship last year.
So you're one of the few with the soft spot for him.
There's no soft spot in There's no soft spot at all. I don't think I've played him more than 5 times this year.
Yeah, 40 minutes and 8 fantasy points.
Well, my friend, we got through these 9 games without any issues, and it's always fun to work with. We haven't got to work together in a long time.
Yeah, no, I need to brush up on my NASCAR so we can start a NASCAR podcast.
Yeah, right? If I ever come out west, I got to bring you to a race with me.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I've never been to one.
Yeah, I'm going up to Bristol in a couple weeks here, and Emacs actually coming with me.
Awesome.
So, but my friend, it is always fun to work with you. I will be on this podcast all week this week, filling in for Dan Bach. I have special guests lined up all week, like I said at the start of the show. But make sure you guys go over to our sponsor, FanDuel.com. They have a ton of basketball action tonight. I think they even have some college basketball stuff posted already. So hockey stuff, they just have everything you want for fantasy except for NASCAR. But they sponsor the podcast, so we want to give them some love. Notorious, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, thanks for having me. It was really fun, and best of luck, everyone.
Good luck, guys, and I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll see you then.